West of What is a round-table conversation inspired by Mother Earth's call for more landwork ceremonies to happen. This is a podcast where spirituality lands into politics, history, culture, and more because land is where we all meet. We want to know how we can come into greater connection with the land and each other, and how we can all move forward with integrity. We believe the answers and solutions will come from many voices, from the truths that happen inside of our togetherness. Hello, and welcome to West of What. And today I am so deliciously excited to say that our guest is Katie Holland, who is an award-winning sacred dance therapist and a visionary creator of Awakened Bellydance. A renowned professional dancer, she is deeply devoted to empowering individuals through self-initiation, embodiment, and conscious movement, guiding participants back to their innate sovereignty, wisdom, and soul remembrance. And I completely agree with every word of this introduction, because I have had the absolute honor and privilege of being in one of these dance workshops, and they're phenomenal, and they connect you to your soul. And so my intention, or our intention for this episode, is that this episode helps you to remember how to dance with your soul.
That does sound delicious.
Katie, thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on to West of What.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excitedly delicious right now.
And so the dance workshop I came to you to do was two types of Egyptian dancing, really. Would you say? Are they Egyptian by origin?
We were doing Zar, which is Egyptian, and then we were doing whirling, which is more from the Turkish side. So similar-ish areas. Yeah.
And it was amazing, by the way. So thank you so much. I
Thank you.
absolutely loved it. But I guess one of the reasons I wanted you to come on the show is I had this, especially with the Zar, and I do want you to explain what that dance is, because I don't think many people know what it is.
Mm.
But I felt that my body understood the land more by dancing the dance of the land. And I thought that would be a really interesting place to start this conversation, and ask you if that's why you are teaching these types of dance, or holding space for these types of dance in Egypt.
Yeah, I've lived in several different countries and I've studied the dances from those countries of what I consider sacred dance. So in India, classical Indian dance and classical Nepalese dance as well, because I was traveling a lot to Nepal. And when I lived in Bali, I studied Balinese dance. So I've kind of always really followed this, I guess, this longing to connect with the ancient teachings through the body. And I was dancing Zar long before I even came to Egypt and very long before I even lived here. And I think if you really want to kind of embody this energy of the land, as you say, it's in this, like the stepping and the stamping onto the land that awakens through those vibrations of your body saying like, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to receive and I'm open to what you have to say to me. And when we move, we're opening all these parts of our bodies that we might not even realize, so that we can we can kind of digest this communication on different levels, and not only just on a logical level of, oh, what happened here and what is this land about. It's something that's more innate and maybe from our ancestors that might have been on those lands, or us in other lifetimes that might have been drawn to those lands again. To I always think of it like, sort of, we're collecting these pieces of ourselves, like soul retrievals, and I've definitely felt this for myself in the ways and the places that I've moved to. It's like I'm gathering these soul parts back again to be more whole, and it's been through dance.
Hmm. I agree with you. One of the things that my guides often say about why it's important to go to ceremony with land is because one of the things they say is that when you step on land that that you lived a lifetime where you were really embodied,
Mm.
it's like the record is there, and so it is an easier um place for your soul to, it's like the pathway is already there for your soul to embody.
Yeah,
I kind of felt
exactly.
that with the dance as well. Like I kind of felt like the dance was bringing my soul back into my body. I want to
Yeah.
ask you, you described these dances from different cultures as sacred dances. What defines sacred dance?
Um, they're often connected with ceremonies and rituals and religion. And although I don't follow any particular religion, I'm very interested in these dances of ecstasy. So in the very old times where and say like with the Sufis or with the Baul musicians in India, their way of prayer and worship is through movement. So this is what interests me, is how can I worship my body through my movements, and also all the nature and everything that's around me? How can I become interconnected with this? So for me, it's like my soul is really becoming alive through this. And so it feels very sacred to me. And of course, for the people that teach this, mostly it's through lineages. So again, this is something that's passed down through generations, through families. um, it's not something often that everybody can learn, or that is accepted into. And I feel extremely lucky that the teachers I've had agreed to teach me, because it wasn't like I just showed up with my money and said, can I join the class? There was a kind of initiation and testing that happened with every single one of them before they agreed to teach me. And that has
What
also
did
been
that
very
testing
interesting.
look like? I want to know what that testing looked. Do you know why? Because
It,
part of the reason this show was created is because I was hearing from many people this this response to colonialism in colonialism meeting ancient and indigenous and cultural practices, and um I know it's like this huge nerve in the collective at the moment. And you are obviously a woman from England who isn't of the lineage in terms of this lifetime and DNA. And one of the things this show is revealing as I'm inquiring about, like, well, how do we do things in a non-colonizing way, is proper initiation. And so that's why I'm asking you about that, is I want to know what the initiations were, if you can share them.
yeah, I mean, it's very simple things, mostly a lot of waiting around. And are you going to show up at 7 a.m. in a place that's 30 minutes from where you live and wait for 2 hours and then get a message to say, sorry, my son is ill and I have to take him to the doctor. Can you meet me in 2 days' time? It's this kind of thing, I guess, modern day testing. Initially, this is just to get a first meeting to discuss about taking the classes. So this could go on for weeks of like delays, and you have to go to that place and just wait. And it's Yeah, it's very interesting. Or like with the Nepalese dances, I had to learn them without the music. And these are 9-minute dances, like very intricate. And once you know it without the music, then I was given the song, like the actual music on, I mean, it was on CD at this point. But I had to dance it perfectly before, and all the through the weeks, I was like, please, can you give me the music so I can practice? And she was saying, oh, there's a problem with my computer and I can't get the music. It's this kind of stuff. And then, like with Bharatanatyam, which is the classical Indian dance I studied, it was, oh, can you fix this costume for me? It's like, can you do things? Or could you just take this to this place for me? I need to deliver, I don't know, this pot of stew or something, like it's this, I guess if you're showing discipline and if you're willing to show up and not question,
Hmm.
and then once the classes start, there's also different degrees, I guess, of trust that's building up, because they don't want to just give you everything and then you just go to 3 classes and then you run off and you make something up that, oh, I'm a this teacher now. There's really yeah, degrees of depth in what you're given. And I was also really lucky in Cappadocia 5 years ago. I was accepted by a sheikh who's teaching whirling from the Mawlana tradition. And this is something that women aren't allowed to do, especially women, Western women. And I had to wait 2 weeks before he accepted. And this was through an intermediary. And then I got a message. I was in a different part of Turkey, and I got a message saying, be in Cappadocia tomorrow. You have to be here for 6 weeks. And, are you coming or not? Like that was it. And and of course I was there. I dropped everything and I went. And then it was studying in a cave underground in freezing temperatures. Um yeah, I mean I've got some quite crazy stories about it, about the different things that I went through, and also physically as well, because the effect that these dances have on your body, like with the whirling, I was hallucinating, I was in constant fever almost for those 6 weeks. There's
How
like
many hours a
a
day were you whirling?
sorry.
How many hours a day were you whirling?
The classes were about 3 hours a day, depending on how many times I fell over or cried or vomited or, you know, it was, yeah, it was very intense. And it got to this point where everything was like, everything keeps turning even when you stop. But this was 24 hours for all that. I was trying to cross the road and everything was spinning. I was in the beds. Yeah, it was very,
Were you
very,
scared?
intense. Yeah,
Were you
yeah.
scared? Were you
So
scared the world wasn't going to stop spinning?
no, and then the other classic thing is as well. I mean, sometimes maybe people can't speak English so much, and usually I can't speak the language that they speak. But again, over the time of studying with them, their English gets better and better, and then I realized, oh, actually, you did know a little bit more than you told me at the beginning, and it's like they're deciding how much do they want to communicate with you. So I also learned a lot of these dances without much spoken communication. It was very much through the body. And I think this also gives it a different level of understanding, because you have to watch so closely and really listen to that person's body, and then kind of bring it through your body. So it's very different to a Western way of teaching.
What is the pull inside of you that's calling you to go to all of these sacred dances from different cultures?
Yeah, this is a good question. um, I've had many dreams and kind of experiences and visions about other lifetimes, or I think of it more like concurrent lifetimes, more on the quantum level rather than a past, present, future. Um, I think, or well, I feel, and what I've kind of remembered is that there is this ancestry from both of my lineages, which connects not only from Western countries. Like, of course, there's the England, Ireland, Scotland kind of influence in my ancestors, but there's a lot more beyond that that's taken me to Zanzibar, and there I had a kind of malaria experience for a month where a lot of information came through and confirmed what I'd been remembering from when I was a child, and these links with the slave trade in my family, and of being slaves. And there's and I think this is where this kind of thing with the kind of appropriation and colonialism comes in, is that how we present isn't necessarily what our lineage is. And from the research that I've done within my own family line, and the connections that I've found and still ongoing, it's not white heritage. So, and I think this is it's the same for everybody. There's so many crossovers. So of course we have these influences within our epigenetics, within our cellular memory, and I think for different people it shows up in different ways. And for me it's through dance and through this kind of conscious movement of the body that wants to express and wants to discover things, because I've received so much healing personally, and also working on my ancestral line through movement, and in ways that I could never have had just through speaking. And I think it's when there's something very strong in the bloodline like this, it wants to be expressed through it. So it could be with music, it's like so many ways it could be. Um, and yeah, and of course, if with our other lifetimes as well, if this has been something that's been very prevalent, it's like we're continuing the story. And but what I felt very strongly about is that I want to have freedom within this story. I don't want to be a dancer or doing these dances because it's been imposed on me, because my ancestors did it, or because I've done it, or I'm doing it in other timelines. It's more like, what freedom can I bring to myself through this, and what choices can I have, rather than living somebody else's agenda through my body in the dance. So I have a bit of a different perspective on working with it.
And why do you think the you've had these experiences that you couldn't have had with just language?
When we move our body, we're going beyond logical, and we're going beyond the control that maybe of how we want to be perceived, or what we want to express. And I feel that when I move my body, I don't have to know what it is that I'm expressing. That when we speak, we're formulating sentences or a theme that we're talking about, but sometimes we don't know what that theme is. This could be from ancestors from 2000 years ago, and we don't know, like, we don't have the language. And English language especially is so limited, I feel, in how we can communicate. So with our bodies we can go more into the what's hidden, what's been repressed, what the shadows within ourselves, the shadows within our ancestors, and also the secrets that we've sworn to keep. So whether that's us or it's our ancestors through power and knowledge that we've held, all these soul contracts that get created that are like, okay, don't speak about this because it's dangerous, or don't speak about this because what would people think? And so through the movement with our body, all of this can be expressed and brought alive in a way that's it's got a different tangibility, and a different depth to it.
Were these dances in a way created to spread secrets that couldn't be spoken?
I think so. Yeah, with a lot of the
Wisdom that
dances.
couldn't be spoken, maybe not secrets, but wisdom that couldn't be spoken.
Yeah, and how to move energy in the body.
Mm-hmm.
because I realized over time of studying, and even because I studied Tai Chi and Qigong a lot as well, there's only a certain amount of ways that we can move our body, and different cultures have interpreted it in their own way. So I've seen a lot of crossovers
Oh,
in, say,
really?
yeah, so many,
What's the
like with belly dance and
crossover?
qigong. So lots of dances it's with figure-of-8 movements, and so there's a movement in qigong where it's not a curvy figure-of-8, but with our hips, it's more like this, and then like more like a boxy figure-of-8. Whereas in belly dance, it's got this flow. And this was 25 years ago. I was in a qigong class, and I just got this moment, and I was like, ah, so if this is working on the kidneys in qigong, it must be doing something similar in belly dance.
Wow.
And I started to see all these patterns between dances and the movements of the body. And then with, say, Khaliji, which is from the Gulf countries, where it's like these women with very lustrous hair and swinging, and also with Zar, and then this connection with Indian head wobble, and how all of it is activating this alter major, like the back of the third eye, which is also, it's got so many names: Death Point, Jade, like Reset Point, Jade Gateway, and it's like
God.
a entrance into our amygdala, and of course the place where we store ancestral trauma and our own traumas. And so all of these movements and these figures-of-8, it's opening this place which is then going into the pineal gland and into this kind of hidden part of our brain. So I started to look at, yeah, how do the different dances interconnect, and how have they been interpreted in slightly different ways, and then how can I work with that to bring me more understanding of dancing with other people, but also for myself as well. So there's a lot about the pelvis, the womb being unlocked, obviously with belly dance, and then with the throat and the neck being unlocked, and the mouth. And of course, we know there's this interconnection between the two. And yeah, and really it all becomes very tantric, because it like with Bharatanatyam, it's very kind of angular with these straight lines and like opening and bringing in. And it all comes back to sacred geometry.
I love as well that, like, the figure of eight, if there is any universal symbol for infinity, it's probably the figure of eight. And
Yeah.
so if you want to talk soul embodiment, making the figure of eight with your body makes sense to me. My guys
Yeah.
tunnel a lot. They talk a lot about how, like, if we want to embody the soul, we have to be able to be in relationship with the infinite, because any finite part of us cannot hold the soul, because the soul is
Mm,
infinite. And so what I'm hearing is that, like, as the body's drawing the figure of eight, it's creating infinite space inside of itself.
yeah. And it's eights and spirals.
Mhm.
So even with our chest, we can do these spirals or circles. We can do eights. We can do eights. With it's like everything comes back to this movement and weaving through the spine as well.
Mm.
So I think of it like all the different joints, each one is like a gateway. And so as we're moving one and then into our shoulder, and we're creating circulation, our blood is moving, but also the energies, we can move the energy through and around our body through with this.
And can I'm like, which way do I go? We will come to Zar because I do want to talk more about Zar, but you said it's tantric, and we have a lot of people from different tantric principles and worlds come on this show. Not necessarily intentionally, it's just when we're talking about coming back into ceremony with the land, Tantra keeps coming up. Um,
Mm,
and it's always amazing to me, this show, because there's always kind of synchronicity before I speak to somebody. And actually, this morning I was writing out the channeling of today's rose code, and it was the code of the tantrika. And the biggest thing she was saying in the code was, if she was saying the code of the tantrika is when you are able to produce your own prana and produce your own energy. And that this is when something becomes sentient, when it is able to produce its own energy. And she was saying the key to that is to be full-bodied. And so it's really amazing to me that this conversation about dance has suddenly led to tantra. And I was wondering if you could speak into, because I don't know all of the dances you're naming, I know some of them. And the one thing I would say about the ones I know is that they are full-bodied experiences. They're not, they're not, they're not, there's something more full in them than just a technique-based dance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is because I started studying dance when I was 3. So I was learning ballet and tap and modern, and they weren't necessarily dances that I kind of really loved. I suppose at that time in England, there wasn't really any other option, and it was the thing that little girls did. And my mum and dad were trying to give something to kind of get my energy out because I was very over energetic and
I tried to tire you
um
out.
sorry.
I tried to tire you out.
Yeah. It's like how much physical energy can this child have, like send her to gymnastics and swimming competitions and yeah, everything. I was sports and I still couldn't sleep because I was just like buzzing constantly. um So I realized at a really young age that I felt good when I danced. This was my interpretation of it. It was like dancing equaled feeling happy, no matter what mood I was in. And then as I got a bit older, I realized that it was a way of connecting to my physicality because I was very uh let's say happy to jump out of my body and be in other places and could do this very easily without even knowing that I was doing it. So although I didn't understand the word embodiment as I was growing up, it I understood something in that connection that it connected me to my body. And then this understanding got deeper, like the older that I got, and when I really had to look at this of like, why am I escaping out of my body, or why is it so easy to do that, and what could I do if I stay in my body and and explore this more embodiment side rather than trying to escape all the time. And this had a massive impact on my life. Um, and in terms of the dances and the technique, some of well most of these dances actually they're very very difficult physically and requires a lot of discipline and training of the body, so in slightly different ways. And each time I started a new dance, it was like a shock to my body because maybe my thighs were really strong when held in a certain direction, but then open them out. And it was like, oh, wow, this is like next level and then next level. And um, so again, I think it's something that's testing people in the physical discipline. Like, are you going to practice? Are you going to train your body in this way? Because it's a bit like in the Karate Kid film, and like this repetitive motion of slapping water or something. And when you're literally doing like one foot stamp for 6 months, like to perfect it, are you gonna are you gonna keep doing that? And can your body hold that? And then once you have that discipline and you're prepared to stick with it, then it's like the other gifts of the dance start to come through, because you've done certain movements or certain positions or phrases of movements which open you to more information. And you don't always know it. It's not like you're in class and like, oh, today it was, this download came, or it's more cumulative. And at least for me, I found that I'd have these sudden insights, and it would be boom, 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 and I would have more understanding. And then it might feel for ages that it was just the focus was on my body again.
Mm.
Um, so I this is my experience of it. And then you have a choice. So some teachers, like my Bharatanatyam teacher, it's a Hindu dance, but she's Catholic, so she's
Mhm.
not interested in the Hindu mythologies or religion or anything. So she's teaching it purely from a technique sort
Mhm.
of base. But this was actually really great for me because I wanted to mix Bharatanatyam with belly dance and with other styles of dance, which if I'd gone to a teacher that was like super purist, I wouldn't have been allowed to do
Yeah.
this.
Mhm.
So it was completely perfect in this way, but she still taught it from the traditional perspective. But for her, it's a dance, and she loves to dance. So it's very like the more spiritual side came because I was living in India, so I was then able to connect more into the culture and have more understanding of the different religions there.
I mean, it's amazing to me how much modern spirituality seems to have forgotten the discipline element,
Mm,
and
this
how
drives me crazy.
and it drives me crazy as well, because I feel like the real richness of my practice has been from the discipline of repeating and revisiting and training. Um, Mine is the energy body rather than the physical body, but um, and I just see this. We're living in like the richest spiritual time. It's amazing. Like, look at the cross pollination that is happening, and
Mm,
the access to sacred knowledge that is available right now. But it makes me very sad that there isn't enough focus on discipline, because I don't. I think you've described it through the dance, but it's like you can't hold it if you don't have the discipline. You could definitely can't embody it. Like the body is built on repetition. If you're not repeating it, if you're not journeying with it, then you're not going to embody it.
yeah, and also I love it with this cross pollination. That means that there's so much information open to us. But I also feel sad about that. And I guess maybe that's this purist part of me, because a lot of my teachers have died now, and the ones who are still alive are older. And I feel that when this generation has gone, there's such a vast amount of knowledge that will be lost because
Mhm.
it's not mostly hasn't been passed down in the similar way. It's been cross-pollinated, and so it's all becoming a bit of a mishmash of things which anybody can make anything from, and the real potency is being lost. And I've seen this, even with say commercial belly dance
Mhm.
in how, because I was 15 when I started learning, so that's 32 years this year. And the changes that I've seen in that, in how the teachers that I had at the beginning and the way that I was taught compared to now, and the there's such a difference in, again, in this the discipline, that people aren't prepared to spend the time to really understand the culture of the dance that they're dancing from, and there's a lot of separation within that. And I'm not saying the way that belly dance taught now is bad or anything, but there's a difference in the depth that I feel, and in just the understanding of this is somebody else's culture, and the respect that there needs to be with that. And this is across the board with not only dance, with lots of things, as I'm sure that you've seen as well. So I think there's this fine balance, because I also create fusion dances, but it's like, if you haven't got the rules, like the basic foundation of whatever you're fusing or cross pollinating, you don't know how to bend the rules to
Mhm.
bring that fusion together.
You're just
And
making a mess. You're
yeah,
not making a
yeah, and
future,
you're just,
you're just making a mess. Yeah.
yeah, and cherry picking from, oh, I'll have that, and I saw that on YouTube, and this and this. And I've always felt this is really important, that I wanted to have really strong foundations so that I knew how to bring things together, because I saw the way that the movements complemented each other, or I understood how the culture or the history of the dances complemented each other.
Wow.
And yeah, and there's not many people who are prepared to spend the time to do that, or maybe who can travel and to the countries of origin and study with teachers of origin as well. This is also really important, I feel.
And why do you think that it's not being passed down?
Um, I guess a lot of people want a quick fix these days. They want to be a shaman in a week, or a professional dance therapist of sacred dance in a month, and or a Blue Lotus ceremonialist after going to somebody else's workshop. And the I guess with the way that the world is and social media, everything is a quick fix, and there isn't the patience and the yeah, again, the discipline. And I think a lot of it is patience, that there's a certain amount of time you need, and that requires persistence as well, and sometimes feeling that nothing is happening, but
Mhm.
actually everything is happening at that time. And that you can't force it.
Mhm.
So I think it's the way that modern society is set up. There's not so much honoring of the old ways of being, or the taking time and being with the seasons, and the natural cycles of the body. And and we just want everything now. And then, as I said, the older generations are gradually passing away, and they might not have passed on the knowledge fully as would have happened in the past, for whatever reasons.
Do you
Maybe
think the
because,
knowledge is in our bodies?
sorry,
Do you think the knowledge is in our bodies?
I think there is that as well. I think there's a lot of it is about remembering, where when it comes to the alchemy and the information. But when it's something more of a technique and the discipline of the technique, then it's something that needs to be shown and corrected, that you've got the proper alignment. Um, so when I was studying Gurdjieff dances, and these dances are all about alignment and changing patterns in your body and mind. And so for years, if you can see, for years I trained in belly dance. How do I make my arm soft? So when the teacher said, put your arm out straight, I did this. And so, because in my mind, this was straight. So she came to me and was like, it's like, this isn't straight. And I was like, what do you mean? Of course, this is straight. But I'd already had 20 years at that point in belly dance of softening the straightness. So, so this is also what interests me, is because this, of course, then it was a pattern, although it was a great pattern, because it added to my belly dance like style. But when it came to the alignment of my body, it was something that I then had to understand and relearn again, like what is actually straight, and then how that changed the flow of my mind, the flow of my body. Because I think when we're studying things, especially something like dance, we might be an amazing salsa dancer, or samba, and we get kind of ingrained into that and into the patterns of the dance. So then whatever the style of dance we're doing, we still look like we're doing salsa. And this
Mm.
happened to me when I was first learning Qigong. I was doing belly dance Qigong because I couldn't, it was like I couldn't not be curving and going fluidly. So this is again like sort of 25, 30 years ago. So it was like, oh, what? And I could see myself in the mirror, but it's like, I don't know how do I make it in this more kind of a bit more masculine way that the teacher was showing. And then I realized that I wanted to be able to be really clear, like, what am I doing? Is it Qigong? Is it belly dance? Is it Bollywood? Is it classical Indian dance? Is it Samba? Like, what is it? And how can I be more aware of my body going into patterns? So
Mm.
this was my challenge for myself, that I could be like, right, now it's Bollywood, now it's this, now it's this, and not just be again like in a mishmash.
I mean,
I hope
that's
that makes
amazing. To
sense.
me, that's like the archetype of the dance. It's like changing the actual archetype of the dance, which is
Mm,
changing the archetype of the body. That's amazing. I love that. I've found in my own spiritual work that when if we don't change it in the body, it isn't going to change.
yeah,
Like if we don't change it in the coding and the repetition and the archetype within the body, it doesn't matter how much shadow work or medicine work or energy work you're doing, it isn't going to change on the material level at least.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. I've had lots of students come to me that have been in different kinds of talk therapy, maybe for years,
yeah.
and have been looping, and then they've come and say done sessions of awakened belly dance or inner dance, and again being able to express non-verbally, it's given them access into like the root of the issue that's happening for them, and maybe where they've been stuck. And I've seen it time and time again that it's it's going beyond words that really brings the true healing and the true release to ourselves. And we have our body here, and again in my inner battle of like staying in my body and or not, and then realizing that actually my body is the key for everything, and it's me that's locking things up. And if I've got this body, so there's obviously a reason for that. And this was quite a revelation to me when I was about 19. It was like, wow, I've got this body. So yeah, I've been dancing all, like through my life till now, but actually there must be something more to it of why I've got this physicality. So what is that? And what can I do with that?
Yeah.
And again, lots of students come and fighting with me, and especially in trainings, and like, you can't make me stay in my body. And I'm like, get in your body. Having tantrums.
Why do you think we don't want to be in our body?
It's quite scary, I think, because it makes things more real and more tangible, and because we hold all of this epigenetic information, it's not only the gifts from our ancestors or from our lifetimes, we're holding all the deaths, all the the experiences that they and we have had. And when I started to look at, all the deaths of my lineage I held in my body, it was like, whoa, like, okay, no wonder I feel like this about certain things, or
No wonder I'm stressed.
yeah, like, no wonder there's some tension in my shoulders.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's easier to be dissociated and be in illusions, and
Hmm.
and that and I don't think there's anything wrong as well with, like having these out of body experiences and exploring different realms. Um, but I feel that really the key is about the grounding and the anchored, being anchored in our body. It's like as always, it's the opposite of what we're being told. Like everybody's focuses go up, 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 and you're going to be enlightened. But what I found, it's to go
In,
in
in.
and in and connect, and of course connecting with the earth, with our body as well. And this is then what brings the true information. Because with, I think of it, like I said, like a spiral.
Mm,
So the more we go in and down, we end up here anyway,
yeah.
because we have to go, when we go so far one way, we end up at the opposite polarity,
Mhm.
and then we're there. So um yeah, again, it's, well, it's like the inversion of the
Mm.
teachings that we're being given, isn't it?
I mean, a lot of, one of the most profound things I ever channeled was my guide said to me once, they were like, do you want to know why the work isn't showing up? All these people doing this work, you're doing this work, and it's not showing up on the physical level. And they were like, you haven't changed it in the habits of the body. And so, and they were like, the habits of the body are eating, moving, dressing, and resting. And if you
Mm,
do, when you meet yourself there, you can have done years and years of psychology, energy work, medicine work, and yet you can still be eating your trauma every day. You can
yeah.
still be playing out your childhood patterns in the way that you're eating, or the way that you're moving, or the way that you're resting or not resting or dressing. And
Mm,
it is unbelievable how people can be so fluent in their own shadow and psyche and consciousness, and still playing them out in those tiny daily habits. And the thing is like, if we don't change the patterns there, they're not, we don't change the manifestation of reality.
yeah, and not only the patterns, also nurturing our physical body,
Mm.
and and not treating it like a machine.
Hmm.
I think this is also really important, realizing that our body needs touch, that we need connection, from ourselves, let alone from anybody else, that our body really wants to communicate with us. And and especially for women with our menstrual cycle, we can go so deeply into this for ourselves, and we can change it. Like I got my cycle off of the moon, and it was by communicating with my body, and it feels so much better for doing that.
Mm.
And I think we're taught that there's this separation between us and our bodies, but actually what we need to do is really bring ourselves together, and yeah, and as you said, these kind of patterns, and yeah, ways of nurturing structure, I guess, that we can bring to ourselves.
I love this nurturing structure. Um, I feel like we've come to a good place to talk about Zara, because Zara's slightly not okay in Egypt, right? It's
Yeah, a little bit.
it's it's an Egyptian dance, but it's slightly taboo. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's from what I understand, it's pre-Islamic. So it's coming from a time where people were very connected to their bodies, very connected to nature, to uh yeah, I guess the spirits or the energies that are around us. And you can see this, say, in Morocco and Africa, with the different kinds of traditional dances as well, which yeah, they're very connected with nature spirits. And Zar originally was for like depossession. So if somebody was thought to be possessed by jinn or by a spirit, and this could also, like, a jinn could also be interpreted as something emotional, so like postnatal depression or grief, or something, um yeah, something that's taken over the person.
Consuming them, would you say?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then it could also be something that's thought of as like black magic, that somebody has put something onto somebody else, or they're affecting them in some way. So it was often done by women and women as musicians for women, and you had czar villages. So this was up until kind of pre-revolution times in Egypt as well. And outside of Cairo, there were czar villages where you could go. And these were like what you came to, it was 2.5 hours. But these were ceremonies that were going on for days and nights. And it's completely trance.
Mhm.
And 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 the same with whirling as well. Like I've been at residentials where we had 24-hour whirling, and it's like insane what happens. And you can just whirl, and then you lie at the side and sleep for a bit, and then get up again and whirl, and go to the loo, come back and whirl. And it's a profound effect on every part of you. So these rituals, they were done to support the woman to release and to express. So this could be by shaking, shouting, screaming, vomiting, and with these particular movements. The thing is, of information I've found so far, or of what people would tell me, I haven't found exactly, oh, you do this move at this specific time, or you do this in this way. And I don't know if that was even the case. Like there are specific movements which induce trance, and by moving the neck and the head and the arms, but at the same time very connected to the earth. So for me, I feel with this saying as above, so below, it's like you're planted into the earth, but you're able to go into different realms of yourself or different realms of existence through this, and it's without plant medicines or other kinds of drugs. You can do this within your own body, and this was something also that really interested me in studying these sacred dances, is about the kind of cultivation and release of natural DMT in the body. So, but that's a different offshoot.
No,
But
go. I think it's so. I've had the same. So to me, body and land are the same thing, right? It's partly why I
yeah,
go into the show. Like our body is the land, uh,
yeah,
and I have had. I haven't taken that much plant medicine, but I took loads of drugs, and I have had more profound experiences of other dimensions and tripping essentially through sober ceremony with land and going into
yes,
other
exactly.
dimensions than I have with any medicine or with any um, druggy experiences I had when I was young. And
Yeah.
it, it, it's amazing to me that this can it's amazing to me that we through our body that is so in this dimension and through land that is so in this dimension that we can have such multi-dimensional experience.
Yeah, I really want to high five you right now. Like, I totally agree, and it's my own experience as well. And again, we've been led to believe that you need something outside of yourself to put into yourself to get this. But everything is here. And whether this is tapping into our ancestors' experiences, our other lifetime experiences, but also us here right now, or this combination of all of it, is completely available to us, and it's safer because it
Much
means
safer.
that, yeah, we're going to have firmer boundaries, energetic boundaries, which means we can't be infiltrated by other energies, say. And also we have a safe base to come back to, so we can go off and we can explore, and we can expand our consciousness. But we know we have this very clear vessel that is here for us, and keeping us strong. Um, so I feel with Zar and with other kinds of trance dance as well, and Sufi whirling could come into this. There's like there's a switch in our consciousness, and a lot of it is about letting go of control
Mhm.
and allowing what needs to come. And and this control switch is also an interesting one because it brings up often brings up a lot of fear for people. What's on the other side of this, and what would happen if I don't control myself, if I scream, if if I cry, what will people think if I'm shaking and I can't control myself? And it's through that relaxing of control that we we can just exponentially open to ourselves. And then this is where the fun begins, because this is where we really know ourselves, and like, okay, I see this now, and we get a totally different perspective. um so yeah, you could say that the czar is like a way of cleaning our body as a vessel and coming back to ourself, like our true self, and at the same time being supported by the women who are really with us and want the best for us. And the particular rhythm that's used is also inducing trance and has an effect on our bodies as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the music because you have live musicians for Star,
Yeah,
which is amazing. And I yeah, I was just curious about how music comes into these dances and the role of music in these dances and the interplay of music in these dances. Because it's
mm,
amazing having the live musicians. I don't think I would have
yeah,
had such a profound experience without them.
yeah. And the musicians that I work with are particularly amazing as well. And they really love it, and they're totally with us.
Mm.
Um, the Yeah, there's the particular rhythm that which is having this, yeah, hypnotic effect. But really the percussionists are also acting as space holders, really, within that, because if you noticed when you came to the session that they intensify the music at certain points,
Mhm.
they pull back at certain points, maybe they walk around the people that are dancing, and they continue to play. So it's like a push and pull, or an expansion and contraction, and I'm doing the same with the words that I'm saying, or the movements that I'm guiding you in, because we can't just, with something like this, you can't just go bang. Like, there
Yeah.
has to be this kind of
Amp it up.
gradual opening of the nervous system to there's like a little step forward, and then like have a threshold point, and then push that little bit more. So between me and the musicians, mostly we don't even look at each other in those sessions, but we're feeling like between each other and between the group what's needed.
And
So
are the so obviously you have dance. Most dance follows music in Western version of dance, right? But there is these more spiritual dances seem, I feel like flamenco, the dancer is leading the music, right? The dancer is guiding the music. Is this that way round or the other way round or both?
yeah, this this is the the other question. I feel it's both.
Okay.
There's a like, I might give them a nod to begin, and like, okay, like, start. And they might give me a nod at certain points to, of like, right, say there's 5 minutes left or something, because they're timing, because we do it in the cycles. Um, yeah, I think it's a conversation between energies and bodies. There's there's not Yeah, I think it's equal. We're really following each other.
And how does it work as a purifier? So I understand that it allows you to feel things that maybe you can't articulate. I understand that most trauma is actually pre-verbal or non-verbal. But and I understand that breaking the patterns is part of the purification and the release. But I feel like there's something. So I feel like throughout this conversation, we've been talking about dancing your DNA essentially and dancing what is in your DNA. And I want to ask, and I don't know if I'm right, but Is there something about when you actually come into that trance state and start dancing your DNA that your ancestors are getting to fulfill or complete some kind of process or some kind of karma, and therefore it's changing the code in the body?
Yeah, it's deeper than deep. It's yeah, I feel so for some people it's going to be um a connection and freeing from often of their ancestors that maybe, and also of the collective. Like I've had people in sessions where maybe they've screamed and like you can feel this scream go through your body. And when we've had the sharing, that people have said that, and then the person who screamed has said, that scream wasn't from me. I felt like I was screaming for all the women in the world who have experienced something, and I feel that that happens when there's a resonance with that person's body and often with their ancestors. So, as a kind of big topic, say it's about sexual abuse, that there's a resonance in the collective with that person's bloodline. And in that moment, that person is expressing it on behalf of.
Mhm.
And also, it could be, say, in a group, you've got some people that they want to scream, but they feel afraid. And I've definitely been that person, like, especially when I first started going to these kind of ceremonies. And so there could be somebody in the group who expresses on behalf of the group. And and sometimes this can be okay, but I think if you find that you're doing that all the time, then that also isn't healthy because you're processing everybody else's stuff through you. But occasionally it can be that there's one person that cracks things open in that way. Um, so I feel like there's a collective group journey. That it's never by accident certain people are coming together, and that there's some kind of invisible threads which are coming to be unraveled and released, and often we don't know what they are. And then there's also the personal journeys as well, and so yeah, again, this kind of letting go of control and saying to people, or you can do whatever you want, you can move your body how you want, you can, be like you're in a tantrum, and and this can be really difficult to accept because we're never allowed to do this. We So everything gets compacted and stuck inside. And so this has also happened to many of our ancestors. And as you said, the dance of DNA, it's like we're stretching
Mm.
it out. We're stretching where these emotions are held in the fascia, and creating more space in our bodies, which means we can then be even more embodied because we can fill that space with ourselves.
It's amazing to me because what you've just described is so similar to land tantra. Most land tantra is ultimately ceremony for the collective, and most ceremony for the collective involves a combination of weeding and seeding, but most of the weeding is exactly that. You through your own personal coding and shadow, you access the collective shadow and release
Mhm.
on, but you can't access it not through your own, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
And it's always a group. It's almost cannot not be done individually. It has to be done with their collective, in a group field. And as you're speaking, I'm just like seeing that when we do this, and I believe that and the world's in a mess because we've stopped doing these practices, we've stopped dancing, we've stopped doing ceremony, we've, st- we've stopped moving the great DNA story forward. You know,
Mm.
it's almost like to change the world, we have to change the timelines of the record and the records of and the roots that are creating what is going on, certainly collectively right now.
Mhm.
And I one of the things I find amazing about land tantra is I feel like it's kind of what you're saying as well about letting go of control. I feel like when you go and do your self work, your personality decides what you're working on. Whereas when you're in a trance state or in a collective journey or taken into another realm, what gets worked on isn't necessarily what your personality would choose
Yeah.
to work on.
Mhm.
And actually, they are the things that are more profound and helpful to, some of the shadows we have worked on in land work are things I never would have even thought of, like the militarized masculine. There is no part of me that would have ever thought, I know I'm going to take the militarized masculine into ceremony. Like
Yeah.
it just wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened. Like, and I, f- I find it amazing because I don't think I've ever heard such a similar description as the description you just gave. And so it's affirming to me that the body and the land are the same again. Like the body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, I think it can't be separated because we're coming from the land,
Mm.
and we not only our own ancestors, everybody's ancestors are in the land and where the food is growing and the water. So we're constantly taking in the dust of those people that came before, and all the information that they held. And as you were speaking, I remembered an experience I had a month ago. I Okay, I have to try and tell you this in a nutshell. So a friend of mine met somebody here in Dahab who gave him blue lotus and acacia to smoke.
Wow.
So he said to me, I can like hold sort of hold space for you if you want to try this and see. And I was like, okay. And
And just for
and
listeners, if you want to call ayahuasca the grandmother, Acacia is like the great grandmother of DMT. She's the tree of this land. Sorry, I
yeah.
just from not from Egypt. Go on.
So the woman that this came from, I don't know anything about her. I didn't know her name, nothing at all. At first, it felt like there was no information. It was like I was blindfolded. And then I got this image of girls lined up in a kind of village setting and basically being lined up to have FGM. And I was like, why am I seeing this? Then I suddenly felt like I was one of those girls. Then I felt the connection into my ancestral line. And I was really just like, kind of holding my body, and then I connected into the physical act of that happening, but also how energetically this had happened in my lineage as well. And
Mm.
and I was thinking, why has this shown up? Like this, it's not something that was in my mind or had been, not something that I sort of generally think about. And literally 2 days later, I had this kind of alignment meeting with two friends who were creating a Lotus online course. And so it was facilitated by another woman, and it was looking at what's the root of this, like what is it that we like, what's in the mud of the lotus here. And the first thing that came up was FGM,
Wow.
about like the what's the pain and the separation in the root of humanity.
Um,
And I was listening to this woman, and I was like, okay. It was, and not only that, when I told the guy after who had given me this stuff, and he said, I can't believe you're saying this because the woman who gave me this has had FGM. So it was like I'd connected into her, I'd connected into the collective energy of it, into my family line of it, into my other lifetime of it. And then it was coming up as a theme needing to be healed in the collective again through through this course that we're bringing forward that's about the lotus rising. So,
Amazing, by the way.
so it's like we're carrying all these different strands that we can have access to. And as you said, me as my personality, this wouldn't have even come to my mind that this was something to look at. And especially in such closeness to having this meeting where it came up again. And yeah, and it was just like another realization of how we have all this information within us, and we just need to open these gateways of our consciousness, and of the relaxing of the control, or what we think, like with our own agendas, what we think we should be going to.
And, there is, as you're speaking, I'm like, absolutely, this is one of the great collective shadows we have to work on, because there's such a manifestation of muted female sexuality.
Yeah.
So many women that go into a numbness or a nothingness or a disconnect in their sexual rising, whether they've actually had this, because we are the collective, like we are the story of the collective. We're not separate from it. I want to ask, because I'm sure some people are listening and they're like, how do you sign me up? And we will tell you. But I'm also imagine that some people are listening and they're intimidated, like of
Yeah.
what might come up, of what they might feel, of what portal might open. Um,
Yeah.
and why is it important to do this?
um Can I add something else from the
Mhm.
last question, just quickly? And going back to the Tsar and all of these neck and head
Mhm.
movements in these trance dances, because they're coming from countries where often FGM is happening, I feel that this is maybe a way that the dance is developed to balance this out and to get the energy moving. So that's just a little extra sort of
Wow.
realization that
Oh
I
my
had over the
gosh.
time. And yeah, to open the throat and to be able to express from there, but also to connect the energy as from down to up.
Wow.
And then as another side note, from again, this is something I've thought about over the years, and then I was like, oh, I don't know. I As when I last saw you, I'm training in yoni massage. This is literally this week, and it was like I feel like it's all connected, and it just suddenly came to me like, there you go, like for me to experience it, like I've had it several times, but this was like a quite different way, and then for me to learn it, and I felt like, okay, I'm being shown a different, or like a new way of supporting women and their bodies, and that's going to really complement my dance work as well, and dance therapy work.
I love the insight about the neck. I mean, obviously, there's so much about the connection between the throat and the sacral, but one of the really profound insights I had just this week was that my guides keeps the guidance I'm getting at the moment is about how the plants and the animals dreamed us and how they like gave us their gifts and their powers, and I keep getting like told which power came from where in terms of the DNA that's beyond our human DNA, which is also important DNA to work with, I think. Um, but one of the things that was said recently was that, even God added to this human design or the divine. And the superpower that the divine gave us was the command, was the voice.
Mm, the word and
But
vibration.
yeah, the word.
Yeah.
But the goddess gave us a power, and she gave us the Amrita, which is the silent command.
Hmm.
And so, and I'm just, this piece has got me really excited because I'm like, oh, so when one is damaged, you can work with the other because they're counterparts. So when one is
Yeah.
damaged, you can work with the other because they're one is they're mirrors of each other. These sacred gifts of
Yeah.
return the command.
Yeah, and also if these dances were, I mean, this is literally coming from me because my rebellious nature, but this, yeah, these dances of rebellion like capoeira,
ah,
and that where the women could really bring the power into their throats and express, and where maybe they couldn't with the sacral.
and so, second question. Why is it important to do this? Although I think we might have just answered that, but like, why is it important to like face this stuff?
Yeah. For me, it's about freedom. Really, I want total autonomous freedom and sovereignty in my body. I've spent many years, really most of my life, working on my ancestral stuff, and realizing that whatever I did, there's always going to be more, and that there had to be a point of, okay, like, enough now, and like you need to deal with your own shit, and I, again, coming back to like, we have these bodies for a reason. So don't you want to understand what your body holds, what your body is capable of, and how much pleasure we can have with our body? Because when we're moving our body and in such communion with her or him, then we, yeah, it's like we have total access to pleasure, which doesn't only have to be sexual. It's like this is in every way possible, and really the way that society is set up is very much about control, controlling our mind, controlling our movements, our body. You know, whether it's country to country or just within our local area, and it's, yeah, breaking out of these controlled zones and situations, I feel, and yeah, and really knowing ourselves. So, and yeah, these ancient wisdoms which are available to us, where it's like beyond what we can imagine, what these dances can lead to. So this is for me why it's important. And I know sometimes people come and they are afraid and they say, I don't know why I'm here. I literally saw the title of the workshop and I don't know anything about it, but I knew I had to come. And it's because there's a calling within them that wants that freedom and wants that understanding. And I always say, you know, we can have fun dealing with our shit. It's we can have an adventure into ourselves, and it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It can be, yeah, there can be fun in this because it's a discovery of ourselves. So it's not to get too hooked up again on these programs of like being in therapy or doing dance therapy has to be miserable. It can be really joyful.
Really joyful.
Yeah.
Probably more joyful than talking therapy.
Yeah.
um, so I know we're running out of time, but I have two more quick questions. Who should we have on this show next?
Oh, well, actually, Elena, that you know,
I would love
who
to
is
have
here,
it. I was
she's really interesting, and yeah, very interesting. And actually, it's her that I'm, as you know, learning the yoni massage with.
Mm,
Um, yeah, she would be really cool, I think, talking about her experiences as a sex therapist, and
mm.
yeah, slightly, yeah, different perspective.
Yeah, I'd love to have her. I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say that you suggested her and ask her. That's a brilliant idea.
She's very cool. Actually, it's her birthday today. So
Oh, amazing. And how do people? I'm sure so many people are gonna want to know about you and your work. How do people find you?
they can look for Awakened Bellydance on YouTube. I've got a channel, so there's lots of podcasts there from over the years, and sort of different mini kind of sessions. And Facebook, Awakened Bellydance, there's a group, or Katie Holland, Instagram, Awakened Bellydance, and then my website also is awakenedbellydance.com. If people want to know, say, more, like all the webinars and things that I've done online, they're all on another website called katieholland.dance. And you can do, there's some free sort of workshops that you can try, but there's lots of different things from whirling to lotus dances, and there's lots of things on there. And I've got a discount at the moment, actually, 50% off. And the code is I am freedom, all with small letters.
Amazing. I love the code.
Yeah.
I love the code. Thank you so much for coming on this show.
Oh, thank you.
So I feel like my DNA is dancing because of this conversation, and I'm so grateful for your wisdom and discipline and understanding of all of this, because it's such important work. And so thank you
Thank you.
so much. And may
Yeah.
the land be with you all. If today's episode touched your heart and you want to come into greater relationship with Mother Earth, visit landtantra.com and get involved. Your truth is part of this conversation, and we would love you to reach out on socials and let us know how it landed. And if it really inspired you, we hope you share it with others. Let's add more wow to our world.